Good morning, my friends out there in the internet. I'm Marshall Bircher. Welcome to today's it's an impromptu episode from me as we begin the big 2 weeks to launch for the Know Yourself strategy. I felt inspired today to share a bit about what inspires my courses and teachings, where these things come from, so that you can have some background and insight into me as a mentor, as a coach, as a human being, and where my teachings come from, so that ultimately you can understand me better, make better decisions about what works for you in your world, because I think transparency and more information, the better. Helping you choose the people who guide you in your well-being in life and empower you in your own healing and happiness. So again, if you're new to me, I'm Marshall Bircher. I help codependents rediscover their well-being, their happiness after narcissistic abuse. And so I'm going to be discussing today what inspires my courses and teachings. Before we get to that, though, it's time to share this out to the community. So I need to get to the right spot. Let me know how you're doing in the comments below and your thoughts, feedback on today's episode. I'm going to hit the button here. Now, the community is your safe haven here on the internet, where you can find guidance, you can find support, you can find tools in your journey beyond codependency. Helps you discover that you intrinsically aren't a codependent. It's not part of your identity. It's not part of who you are. It's how you survived. So I look at codependency from the premise that it is a survival strategy. It's what our brain came up with to navigate unreliable, unstable, and threatening relationships throughout our lives. This is technically a product of the fawn response that our body has in response to threats, because the body has 4 options when it encounters a danger. It can kill it, it can run from it, it can freeze and play dead, or it can fawn and appease the threat. And codependency is a combination of freeze and fawn. I call it the freeze-fawn loop. And that's what keeps us stuck in the relationship and creates this sense of love. Because when you're fawning, you have love feelings towards the threat. This is what motivates you to try to bond with them, to try to influence them, to try to fix or control them. It also feeds the big codependent fantasies that are at work. Like, they're the only one for me, my love can heal them, they complete me, I need them. If I can get them to love me, I'm actually lovable. Things like that. And better than nothing. The better than nothing fantasy tends to get us that way. And so, actually, we'll just dive into here, because it's this stuff that inspires my work. Because I've been through it myself. Through a lot of it. I've been through love addiction. I have been through relationship anorexia, where you starve yourself of relationships, making yourself ultra, quote, independent, which is technically counter-dependence to actual interconnection and belonging and friendship and being seen and valued. My journey out of codependency has inspired a lot of what I teach, but it's also my students and clients that bring this to life, that really bring in a lot of the nuance, because as I share with them my tools, my experience, they share with me theirs, and this is what really inspires what I teach. Now, the courses that I create are in direct response to the needs I see my students and clients and myself needing in this journey. It's why they're kind of organic that way, and that they tend to grow and they tend to evolve, because they're being influenced by the feedback and by the experiences the students, the clients, and myself have utilizing the tools and the information that are there. And this is why I'm committed and kind of driven towards the experience, or the commitment of understanding the experience of my students and clients so that they can succeed, because that's the point. Because fundamentally, we aren't codependent. We're designed to be interdependent. We're designed to see each other, to know each other, to understand. But then we get into trauma, we get into abuse, we get into neglect, and these inherent attributes of ourselves get frozen. They get tied into a survival strategy that then prevents us from knowing ourselves, prevents us from really knowing the other person, and it keeps us in a repetitious cycle of pleasing and accommodating and then trying to force and control things. We don't have to do that anymore. It was when I discovered, well, rather, when I took the leap of faith going, maybe I don't have to be codependent anymore, it unraveled my reality. Things started to not make a whole lot of sense at first, because it's like, what is going on? What is real? How do I deal with things? And it's through that question of how do I deal with things, what is real, that started to shape how I teach, what I teach, and started to shape exactly what I teach. So like the Heal Yourself strategy, the Know Yourself strategy, Relationship Essentials are all results of that exploration. And that's really where this inspiration comes from with courses and with my teachings. Is it something that's lived? It's real. It's not something that I read in a book and said, oh, I'll take a course on that. It's something I've had to do myself, that sometimes I'm actually still doing very consciously in my life. And that's where they come from. It's like, oh, there's this thing that's showing up. Like, for instance, this morning, I was working with an aspect of myself that's very scared of promotion. It's very scared of exposure. It's very scared of being seen. It has some paralysis around that. It makes this really intense pain around my kidneys, my lower stomach, and then this bracing in my chest. And so I was working with it. And I was applying some of the tools from the Know Yourself strategy to this aspect of myself. And one of those tools is a lensing tool, where we look at a situation from a different point of view, and then we amplify an attribute of that situation. I'm going to sneeze. It's going to go. Ugh. Allergies, but it's going to come or it's not. So I was viewing this very young aspect of myself. He was 8. He'd written a love letter to a girl in his class and put it in the math book, and then she'd read it and she humiliated me. She made fun of me and called me ugly and disgusting, and then ran around and laughed at me. This had shaped a significant aspect of this anxiety in me about being exposed. So this morning I was applying this lensing approach, which is this different point of view about a situation, and then we amplify an attribute of it. Well, what I saw when I looked at the situation from my own adult point of view is I saw a little boy who had the courage to tell someone his feelings about them and take a risk that none of the other children were doing. And that exploded this point of view in me. It's like, oh, I'm actually courageous here. I'm actually badass here. This is a strong aspect of myself. And it's shifted the entire relationship I have to the event. I did that through a process I call lensing that comes directly from the Know Yourself strategy. Now I'm cementing and I'm doing what's called normalization, which is another practice I teach you in the Know Yourself strategy. It's how we integrate a shift so that it becomes a normal aspect of ourselves. And that is a biggie in that respect. So let's see, we got Ashley shares, I felt that fear of being seen is a thing. It really is. Yeah. And it's not because being seen is scary intrinsically. It's because of what we've experienced when we've been seen. That's where our emotional association or reference point is created in that experience. And so I've been restructuring this. This is when I say this the courses, the stuff I teach come from lived experience. This is what I'm talking about. So I'm going to be talking about more about how lensing works when we get to the vision training here in a couple of days. This is what inspires what I teach. It inspires what I post, what I make videos on, what I create courses around. It's this real lived experience. And that's what I think makes it kind of magical, kind of cool that way, because it evolves. All my courses grow and change over time because I'm growing and changing over time. You guys are too. And what you need and what works for you is changing, and I want to respond to that and help you out as best I can to get down that road, more into your sovereignty, more into your well-being, more into your happiness, more into your personal power. Because you don't have to be codependent to survive anymore. You can actually be yourself and thrive instead. That's the point. That's the big goal. So I just wanted to share those little bits about where my inspiration comes from so you can get to know me just a little bit more. I appreciate you guys being here, for hearing me out, allowing me to take a little bit of your time on this Monday. Have a great day today. Be safe out there. And I will see you guys in our next training tomorrow. We'll be discussing the what I call true voice aspect of yourself, and what that means, why it matters, and how we get to know it. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.